it's interesting. So basically, you're saying some of these use cases are really low-hanging fruits that anybody could implement right away, right? Like in any warehouse, safety, wearing a helmet, like that makes sense, right? Those are easy things. But then the more custom insights that I can extract there probably, again, like you said, require a little more context and a little more integration. Um, let's take a step back. So broadly speaking, supply chain, right? Going with computer vision, I'm in the physical supply chain, so I'm in the warehouse. But I'm also there are trucks and there are things moved to customers and coming back and suppliers and manufacturing. There are multitude of different physical spaces. If you paint me a picture of the variety of use cases in computer vision, where would you start? Like where are the lowest hanging fruits? I mean, we already touched on some of the quality, safety, but again, outside of warehouses too, what are the coolest ones that you keep seeing?
Yeah. So I'd say if I was to think about, supply chain as a whole, I would begin with four walls, anything that is four-walled, warehouse or a manufacturing plant. Uh, there is stuff you can do outside four walls too, like in yards, for example, yard accuracy, so on and so forth. But it's always there is more variables. You can do stuff in trucks, but there are more variables there, right? There are more variables from a hardware performance standpoint. There are more variables from a variable environment standpoint. So I would always start with four walls. So let's say you start with the inside of a warehouse and you start with the inside of a manufacturing plant, right? The second filter I would apply is I would always think about places where there is a handoff between systems or handoff between companies, because that's where information gets lost, right? So you're thinking a warehouse, right? You are a appliance manufacturer, for example, right? And you are shipping to a trade partner like a Home Depot or a Lowe's. It's at the moment of shipping where there is a handoff between you and your trade partner. And that's where information gets lost, right? What information gets lost is you think you did X. Your customer says you did not do X, you did X minus 2%. What are you going to do now, right? Now, the good thing about same thing with manufacturing, you manufactured something, you're shipping it out to even your own warehouse or to a customer. You think you shipped X to your customer after manufacturing. Did you ship X or did you build it right? Right? It's those places where it's the easiest, the lowest hanging fruit is there because A, the value is immediate. Anywhere where there is handoff between two systems, there is going to be a loss, right? 1%, 2%, 5%, whatever. You put some cameras there, start monitoring what you're doing. If you're doing it right, you can immediately prove whether you did it right or not. Either if you didn't do it right, the software will tell you didn't do it right, and then you will fix it. If you did it right, you have proof, a digital proof of you having done it right, right? So you sort of like think of this as, again, handoff between systems is a very, very good place to put visibility in, because that's where visibility usually breaks, right? Uh,
And like
now,
you said, it's right away an ROI, right? So it's a
right away,
good, it's easier to get that buy-in from your stakeholders.
and there is usually dollar value, right? Like
Right.
shortages in retail there is a dollar value there. We know between 1 to 5% of product shipped from warehouses gets disputed in different shapes and sizes and forms by whoever is
Right.
receiving it, right?
Right.
So we know what we spend on that every year, and
Yeah.
it's purely a visibility problem, because once someone says you did not send it, what are you doing? I mean, you don't have any proof of what you sent. You think you sent it right, right? So just putting a camera there and observing it, to your point earlier, just even reading barcodes there, just tells me what did I ship out, right? So that's I think one. Now, the other thing I will say is, and this is where some of what we do is very exciting, in that we've had machine vision for a while, Florian, right? The traditional hardware integrated vision system which does quality, right? The challenge with that has always been very uh, specific purpose, high capex. One, it can only do one use case, right? The good thing with increasingly this general purpose computer vision, which you can do of standard cameras, is the same camera that I'm using to monitor, for example, how you're loading a truck and reading those labels. I can monitor safety. For example, is your truck latched onto the dock before you start loading it, right? You get that wrong, there is a huge, huge safety issue there. I can use the same camera to create productivity metrics, saying how long does it actually take me to load a truck? What's the gap between two pallets? I marry two cameras, another camera that is looking at a staging area, and then say how long does it take from staging area to the dock, right? So the second thing I'd say is, the first place I said is where you create visibility between handoffs between systems. The second thing is start layering things on top of the same infrastructure, because you can create multiple compounding value of the same pieces of camera by adding layers of software that will find you more opportunity, right? Uh, and then at some point I would think about or I would think about transportation, which is trucks and stuff, as a completely different, almost a completely different set of systems, because the architecture and the hardware you would need for stuff like that would at base would still be computer vision, right? But it would likely be two very different companies doing the two different things. Like the guys who are doing inside the warehouse are unlikely they're doing it inside the truck as well, because they will need very different hardware architecture and so on.
Maybe the one extension that sits in between the trucks and then the warehouses is maybe the yard management.
And that's yes,
That may be a good one, and because
that is
that's
a
still
yeah.
my four walls, but it's a little different application. It may not be tracking the boxes. It may be tracking the movement.
Trucks of the truck. And this brings me to other thing. I would not think of computer vision in isolation, right? So think of this as, if you really want to use, like, I mean, we'll call it AI, we call it technology in general. Computer vision is the vision piece of it. There are other sensors that can be, there are certain places computer vision is very, very powerful, right? But there are certain things that are done easier using other sensors, right? So when I think of yard management, I would use a hybrid computer vision and other sensor approach within the yard, where there are certain things like when looking at yard entry, right? There's a lot of stuff I can do from computer vision. When you're doing it, when you're oftentimes outside warehouses, you have multiple trucks because there is a guard, a poor guy who's to note down multiple things. I could automate that with computer vision. Put 6 cameras, I can read everything on the truck, and you go in. But then the yard is huge. If I want to see what my utilization of the yard is, I may not need computer vision. I can just do simple parking sensors, for example, right? So you would need ideally in yard management, you need two or three different technologies, including computer vision, to do it more efficiently, right? That said, I would still think of this as even the way I would approach yard management is as an extension of inside your dock. So once you start inside your dock and you say, what am I loading in the truck? And I start using cameras to see what I'm loading in the truck, I can start using a camera outside to see what truck was it? What time did it come? What time did it leave? Right? Or what container was it? Right? And then build from there to what problems to solve. I think you are, at some point, you're going to ask me this question. The biggest concern I usually have with AI is, I mean, when people say, how do I get started with AI? Why do you want to get started with AI? So AI is a tool. We need to figure out what are problems that keep you up. What are the problems that you have not been able to solve forever? And then think about whether AI is a fit, right? So I just go back to, I mean, for example, is yard management a problem worth solving? I don't know. I mean, you kind of need to figure out, is it worth solving for anybody? Is it worth solving for a particular type of company? So